Why is Dwight obsessed with beets? Why does he have to be number 2? And what does it mean for our investigation? Dwight's childhood trauma revealed on the Anti-Strangling Task Force. Listen up, Kemosabe, you better get comfortable for this episode because this will be one of the greatest revelations of the Scranton Strangler mystery ever. Dwight's obsession with beets is largely overlooked and mostly explained by his family being farmers and his rural lifestyle, but this couldn't be farther from the truth. Dwight's obsession with beets is deeply rooted in his childhood trauma. It is psychologically embedded into him. For Dwight, beets shape his concept of freedom. To understand this, we need to go back in time, back to Dwight's birth and back to the first 3 months of his life. The challenge, however, is that this story is communicated to us across the entire series via the whole gamut of creator tools: symbolism, motif, theme, camera framing, scripting. We aren't just going back in time. We're going to take a journey throughout the entire series. Firstly, we need to understand that Dwight is in fact one of a pair of twins.
Phyllis, you want to give it a shot? I got it. When my mother was pregnant with me, they did an ultrasound and found she was having twins. When they did another ultrasound a few weeks later, they discovered that I had resorbed the other fetus. Do I regret this? No. I believe his tissues made me stronger. I now have the strength of a grown man and a little baby.
This is simply a lie from Dwight. Dwight was born one of 2 twins, as twins also form a very strong motif in the show.
One time we were out and we met this set of twins.
Hey, Temp.
Hey.
Look, we're twins.
Cool.
Hey, my cousin Billy, they just had the twins.
Hey, Pam, how about something like that for you? Could sort of cover up any imperfections in the midsection, but just show off the twins a little bit. So, this is the dealio. God has smiled upon me and given me 2 tickets to the big party in New York tonight. What are you doing this evening? Look at that. They have their own little language now, like twins.
No, I mean, I really liked it. That was a fun read.
Fun?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
What was fun about it for you? Was it the death of the twins?
Did Ms. Levinson ever say why she thought she was being fired?
She thought it had to do with the twins. That's what I call it.
Can you be more specific? Who are the twins?
To be delicate?
Michael,
Yes.
drop this one aboard.
Why?
I found twins.
Oh my God, twins. I'm sorry, you understand. Nice to meet you.
Aren't they magnificent?
They're men, Dwight.
I love finding a good set of twins.
Something is wrong with you. You guys ever protect the president?
No.
What about Madonna or Obama twins? Anybody famous? Right here, we have the Wonder Twins, Jim and Pam Halpert. They will be assisting you today. Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you hadn't been transferred?
Yeah.
We would have twins.
My brother and I were the chicken fight champions of our swim club growing up. I mean, we beat the Strauss twins. So,
Yeah, look at that.
we're pin twins.
Pin twins.
As I've mentioned dozens of times, repetition forms a motif and therefore requires interpretation, which in this case is quite simple. Dwight was born a twin. This is supported by his admission of being a twin in the womb and also his infatuation with the twins at the bar. Not only was he born a twin, but he was also born a Shelford, not a Schrute.
Back then, my life was so great that I literally wanted a second one. In my second life, I was also a paper salesman, and I was also named Dwight. Absolutely everything was the same, except I could fly.
Dwight's Second Life account reveals this to us. He tells us very clearly that everything was the same except he could fly, with the logical deduction obviously being that the surname is also the same. Supporting this, we also actually see a picture of Dwight's real parents. You can see here they are dressed in secular clothing. They do not look like they are Amish. Dwight also makes the distinction in the pilot episode between his family and the Amish.
Dwight Schrute. My father's name also Dwight Schrute. My grandfather's name, Dwight Schrute. Amish. That's my family. I don't know where the Amish came from originally. That's my family. I don't know where the Amish came from originally.
So if he wasn't born a Schrute, how did he become one? Via child abduction. Abduction forms a very strong motif in the show. Nellie steals a baby and takes him to Europe.
Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. If Ryan wants his baby back, please tell him where to find me. We'll be somewhere in Europe.
We have the infamous scene of Angela being accused of stealing Jim's baby.
Stop that tiny blonde woman! She stole my baby!
What are you doing?
Give me the baby!
What? Kevin!
Michael gets worried that Jim might have been abducted.
I know. You have a phone policy. I understand, but this is an emergency because my friend isn't here, and I'm worried that he has been abducted.
Kevin speaks of assportation.
Kidnapping is the assportation of a person against the person's will.
What?
So Michael assported him.
Kevin also fears kidnappers, and remember this one for later on.
I'm only scared of real things like serial killers and kidnappers.
And the most important reference of all is Dwight's fear of child snatchers.
Okay, do you have the Sharpie?
Keep simulating.
Do you have the Sharpie?
Yes, I do.
Okay, when the baby emerges, mark it secretly in a kind of a mark that only you could recognize and no baby snatcher could ever copy.
Okay.
Now, there likely could be more references. If more come to mind, guys, please put them in the comments. Now, the interpretation of this motif is that Dwight was abducted as a child, and this is confirmed by his fear of baby snatchers. We also see Dwight clearly moved when playing the guitar on Bring Your Daughter to Work Day.
And know they love you.
And they do. Your parents love you very much.
One more time.
There is pain in Dwight, pain relating to his parents and their love. So he was born a pair of twins. He was the twin that was abducted. But how did the abduction happen? It happened in the early hours of the morning.
Knock, knock. Oh, hey, Isabel.
Some fans have rightfully pointed out how Isabel seems to rock up to the hospital at a completely unreasonable hour. She seems to be there in the early hours of the morning. We are also shown how vulnerable both mother and newborn are when Pam breastfeeds another woman's child. Another point to keep in mind for later. But this is how it happened, and this is why this scene exists. It gives us the blueprint for how the abduction occurred in the early hours of the morn. Now, if you've come this far in this episode, you must have a number of questions immediately coming to mind. Namely, why is Schrute Farms abducting babies? And this is 100% a relevant and important question. However, just like with Dwight's obsession with beets, what's really going on at Schrute Farms is going to require another analysis because the clues are scattered throughout the series, such as the occupants of Schrute Farms being all male. But for now, all we need to know is that Schrute Farms is abducting children, one of which was baby Dwight Shelford. So who abducted him? Henrietta Schrute. Hedda took the baby boy in the early hours of the morning, the moment that would change Dwight's life forever. This moment would start the sequence of events that would lead to the birth of the Scranton Strangler. This event is burnt into Dwight's mind. When Hedda got back to Schrute Farms, she had to conceal the baby. Dwight tells us that his mother couldn't walk for 3 months.
How about this? I was born 13 pounds, 5 ounces. My mother couldn't walk for 3 months.
Those following the investigation closely will know that the 3-month motif is an incredibly powerful one that is repeated vigorously throughout the series. To conceal baby Dwight, she pretended to be pregnant by strapping him to her body and then proceeded to stay seat-bound for 3 months. We're given the blueprint for this when Angela tells us how Dwight used to strap her to his belly and run through the fields.
When we were dating, I would help him with his strength training. He would strap me to his chest in a baby Bjorn made for fat children and do lunges across the farm. I felt like I was flying.
But we also do have another motif here, which is pretending to be pregnant. Kelly says she's pregnant to Ryan.
Well, I hope you're still committed because I'm pregnant.
Dwight pretends to be pregnant with a watermelon.
Okay, do you have the Sharpie?
Keep simulating.
Do you have the Sharpie?
Packer pretends to be a pregnant nun.
Who did it? Who did it? Who did it? Let's do it now!
Mary Beth pretends to be pregnant at improv.
I'm supposed to meet my doctor here. Have you seen him? He's a very angry midget.
Boom! Freeze! Michael Schoon, FBI. You know you did.
And the two that I really want to bring to your attention out of that list is really Packer and Dwight, which is a motif around men pretending to be pregnant, and keep that in mind for later as well. So this was how Henrietta Schrute decided to conceal the baby. Baby Dwight spent the first 3 months of his life in absolute traumatic circumstances, strapped to Hedda's belly so she can pretend to be pregnant. To keep the baby satiated, during this time a combination of a boob-shaped sponge soaked in a warm vegetable mash was given to Dwight and suet on a piece of string.
You know, it's not really necessary for me to sit here holding her all night. Just go to Gabe's refrigerator, get a lump of suet, or any kind of congealed animal fat will do, really. Tie a piece of string to it, tie the other end to her toe, pop the suet in her mouth. She'll be happy for hours.
But Dwight was not fooled. He needed the comfort of a real breast.
Hey! Did you manage to feed him? I don't know what it is. He just keeps spitting out the nipple.
That's because this baby is of superior intelligence and can tell when he's being tricked out of the experience of a real human breast.
And people with children will know that the breast provides more than milk to a baby. It provides comfort, security. But instead, Dwight is fastened to the belly of a Nazi and denied his breast. Finally, the time came for Dwight to be born again. A second birth. This time entering the world as a Schrute.
Ready?
Yes. Here we go! God, wow! What was on that?
Butter. Newborns are slippery.
Now, newborns are slippery. To make the birth look more realistic, Hedda asks her maid, Melvina, to bring to her some beet juice. Beet juice was chosen to make the birth look real. They lathered up baby Dwight Shelford in the beet juice. The smell, the texture, the taste, the feel would forevermore be imprinted onto his mind. Dwight was now ready to be born. Dwight tells us that he remembers his birth.
Here's one. It was dark, warm, wet. A sudden burst of light, an intense pressure like I'd never felt before. Father, dressed in white, pulls me forward. Mother bites the cord.
Okay, stop.
Now, he remembers it, guys, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Dwight was already born. He was a 3-month-old baby at this point. He was born a 13-pound, 5-ounce baby because he was born 3 months ago. The blueprint for this is provided to us with Angela and Senator's relationship when they lie about Philip's true birthday.
This baby is clearly not premature. They're lying about the date it was conceived. It's very interesting. Honestly, I can return this for a larger size.
It's fine. Pajamas aren't supposed to be baggy, right? It's not the barrio.
The only premature baby in this room is the baby this baby ate.
Important? Oh, because you and your enormous monster baby are so important to the branch.
My baby is not a monster.
Hey,
Be proud of your enormous monster baby. I was once an enormous monster baby.
Guys! Again, guys, repetition, it forms a motif. But the second, and really the primary reason he remembers, is because of how traumatic it was. An intense pressure around his head. Mother bites the umbilical cord. And of course the spoon that supposedly guided Dwight through his mother's vaginal canal.
And, interesting factoid, this is the very spoon that guided my soft skull through the birth canal when I was born.
All these tools and actions can strongly be linked to the loosening of the bonds of baby Dwight from the belly of Heta Schrute. For Dwight, it was more than a birth. It was freedom. He could finally breathe fresh air. He could finally move freely. He could stretch. He could cry. He was finally allowed to be a baby. Beets would be forever associated in Dwight's mind as freedom. A good example of this is when they're playing Desert Island.
No, it has to be a book, Dwight.
Fine. Physician's desk reference.
Nice, smart.
Hollowed out. Inside, waterproof matches, iodine tablets, beet seeds, protein bars, NASA blanket.
He puts down a whole list of utility items, clearly intelligent choices, but he has to bring one item with him: beet seeds. Beet seeds would allow him to continue in his struggle for survival. Beet seeds would remind him that freedom is just around the corner. But whoa, whoa, whoa. Dwight's troubles were only just beginning. Dwight tells us that he had a wet nurse.
I'll tell you what happened to me. I didn't see my father for the first 2 years of my life. I thought my mother was my father, and my wet nurse was my mother.
And that's a common mistake.
Turned out fine for me, but Moe's. Oh, same story, different ending.
Now, if you've come this far in this episode, you already know why he had a wet nurse. Heta Schrute was not producing milk because she didn't give birth to Dwight. Now, there's a much more obvious reason why Heta wasn't producing milk, and I'm not going to say it right now. If you've worked it out, guys, put it in the comments. But ultimately, this is why Dwight had a wet nurse, which was Melvina. Melvina was Dwight's wet nurse. Now, logic would have it that if Melvina was producing milk, it's because she had given birth to a child of her own. Now, this child is number one. Her own child will always be breastfed first. No ifs or buts. The position of number one was never attainable for anybody else. Now, this wouldn't have been a problem if there were only two babies, Melvina's child and baby Dwight Shelford. But how could there only be two babies? For those of you following the investigation closely, you already know how many babies there were.
Singles only. Singles only. Also, 3 is unlucky. Curse of 3.
The birth of the curse of 3. 3 babies and only 2 breasts. And who was the third baby? Dwight's adopted brother, also kidnapped to Schrute Farms.
Big brother, they immediately think it's Big Brother. They immediately think it's Big Brother. They immediately think it's
Kevin. A hungry, hungry baby. If Kevin was chosen as number 2, he would completely drain Melvina's left breast of any milk and Dwight would not get fed. If he was number 2, he would get his fill. This is the left breast you continue to see in the series. Hannah Smokeridge Bar pumping her left breast. The boob doctor stimulates Pam's left breast. Meredith's boob that hangs out is the left breast. Dwight's aunt's ripped shirt reveals her left breast. Michael accidentally gropes Jan's left breast. The left breast motif you see throughout the series is this left breast. The left breast that was stolen from Dwight and the left breast he had to fight Kevin over at Schrute Farms. It's the breast that was stolen from Dwight. his birthright. The number 2, just like Beets, is also branded into his psyche.
Last night, I dreamed that the number 2 was the most valued number in the world. The vice president had all the power. Athletes fought for silver medals. Women were considered the best gender. And stadiums of fans shouted, "We're number 2."
By 2 o'clock, Dwight will choose himself to be assistant to his own assistant, me.
This whole search for the assistant thing, none of these people are good enough.
I know.
What I'm about to say makes no logical sense, and yet it might be the most logical thing I've ever said.
Jim, this is going to come as no surprise, but I know exactly what you were going to say. The only possible assistant to my assistant
is
me.
And it is the reason why Dwight is on a path of retribution. An eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, foot for foot, and if you're Dwight Schrute...
Tit for tit.
That is not the expression.
Well, it should be.
So when you see Dwight yearning to be number 1, to be manager, for example, he is really yearning to be suckling on his own breast. When Michael gives Dwight his recommendation, he breaks down. His trauma triggered. Because in this moment, Dwight gets to suckle on the breast first.
Thank
you, Michael.
Okay.
When Dwight captains the ship, in his mind, he is suckling on that left breast. When he finally becomes manager, his exclamation is one of relief that finally he gets to be number 1. He gets to suckle on the breast first.
Dwight Schrute is manager!
Now, his desire is to be number 1. His desire is to have his own breast. However, he can handle being number 2. It is a compromise, but in his psychology, he still gets fed. Dwight being number 3, however, will trigger his trauma. At the dinner party, Jim and Pam are invited as number 1. Andy and Angela are invited as number 2. This relegates Dwight to number 3, and it triggers his trauma.
Does it bother me that I wasn't invited to Michael's dinner party?
So he yearns to be number 1, to have his birthright of a dedicated breast fulfilled. He is content with being number 2 because in his mind he still gets fed. If he's relegated to number 3, his trauma will be triggered, but he will live to fight another day. There is just one thing that Dwight cannot handle that will drive him absolutely insane.
David Wallace and I have talked, and we have decided to promote Jim to the position of co-manager. What's happening to me? I am also being promoted to co-manager. We will be co-managers together. Jim Halpert, welcome.
Thank you.
Two number 1s. You can see he loses his mind. 2 number 1s equals 2 babies on each breast, which means he will never get to suckle on the teat. The definition of the ultimate nightmare for Dwight. It's all about trauma. It all links back to Dwight's childhood trauma.
Oh.
What's up?
Her milk is coming in. She's getting uncomfortable.
Dwight, don't be gross.
No, he's right. It's weird. My breast pump is missing. Have you seen my breast pump?
All right, this is gonna traumatize me a hell of a lot more than you, believe me.
Now guys, this is the tip of the iceberg. The trauma does not end at Schrute Farms. As we continue this investigation, we're gonna find out Dwight's first murder happened at Schrute Farms. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Dwight would also have his first taste of human flesh.
And if it was an especially cold winter and there weren't enough grains or vegetables, they would eat the weakest of the brood. Brownies, is it? Pastry cubes made of sugar and fat? No, thank you. I'll stick with my jerky.
How's your meat?
Dry. Delicious.
I don't care what she's doing. I hope she just keeps doing it.
Amen. Just keep the ribs coming.
Stanley, could you look up accomplices?
Why can't you guys do it?
Because we're looking up jail time.
Fine.
Michael.
Michael?
We are accomplices.
We're the cast of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. We open in a couple of weeks at the Loose Screw Playhouse here in Scranton, and today just doing a wee bit of viral marketing.
Oh my God.
Betty.
Oh my God.
Enjoy.
What is it? Don't touch it.
Somebody's found the hog maw.
Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the Anti-Strangling Task Force on Patreon for exclusive episode analysis.